Hey guys, welcome back to the shack. Tonight I got a video for all you gear junkies and those of you that own a Sculpfun machine or pretty much any machine that uses the extrusions, whether it be 2020 extrusions or 2040 extrusion. And what we got tonight is a Lightburn camera that is probably one of the better designs as far as the mounting of the camera to the machine or to your workspace that I've come across since I've been doing this. And you guys know I've tested out a lot of different cameras and I use them for different things. I use a lot of board cameras in my enclosures, but I use these also on machines. And for those of you who may not have an enclosure, or even if you do have an enclosure, if you have adequate space, this is a pretty good camera. Okay, so we're going to go over the physical aspects of the camera, and then I'm going to move you over into Lightburn, and we're going to go through what this thing is capable of after it's been calibrated and zeroed in. So if you're interested in Lightburn cameras and using them on lasers, then stick around, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, so this is the Sculpfun S30. This is the 22-watt model. It is a really good machine. It exceeded my expectations. It has a really big work area. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles that some of the other machines have, guys. It is a straight, run-of-the-mill laser. It doesn't have automatic air assist or anything else, but what it does have, guys, is a really big work area. This is a 24-inch ruler, and as you can see, it fits well within the work area no matter which way you turn it. Also, inside the work area, I have a honeycomb that's actually around 500 by 500 millimeters, and you can see that it's not big enough. But anyway, this is a big machine, so the reason I want to point that out to you guys is this camera, most machines are 400 by 400 or so. And that's what the camera is designed for, but I'm assuming since it was designed by Sculpfun and for use with their machines, this is the only Sculpfun machine I have in the shop, so this is the one we're going to be testing it with. I will tell you the hardware that it comes with, and this is the little, in case you don't have a Sculpfun machine, let's say you had a machine that had the square rails. A lot of the machines do have square rails. A lot of especially the newer ones. It comes with this little clamping mechanism that you can also use. This screws onto the camera, and it's aluminum, it's not plastic. It's got a metal all thread here. It does have a little aluminum boot, or a plastic boot here, but even the knob is metal. So it's built really rugged as far as that aspect of it goes, but the way that it mounts to these extrusions, it's pretty solid. It's a solid build. So the way it works, guys, is they've got a little T-bracket that sits right here. And you use those little T-nuts that go into the extrusion on the inside and the outside. Not just on the outside like some of the brackets you've seen, but it uses T-nuts on the inside and the outside. And that makes for a pretty sturdy little base here. Now, it will move, but being as rigid as it is, if you do bump it or you do move it, it shouldn't move the camera permanently. It's just going to move it and bounce back. It uses a metal, like an aluminum block right here with thumb screws on it that allows you to be able to extend the arm or raise and lower it on the mast here. So that's pretty cool. They did a really good job of cable management on the back of this. It comes with one of those drop-in strips that's made for extrusions and does a good job of hiding it. And I just used some zip ties and kind of cut a piece of this material here and put them on the back, and it's got the cable pretty well hid all the way to where it comes out on the corner of the machine. So I was impressed with the construction as far as the way they did it. Now with this camera, you're not going to get a lot of rotational adjustments. You're not going to be able to rotate it one way or the other. You're not going to rotate it this way. But what you're going to need to do is from the center of where the camera mounts right here on this little bracket, if you'll use that and then put that above the center of your rail, that'll be in the center, complete center of the machine. And that's what I did. Then I went into Lightburn and set everything up and zeroed it. And guys, it's doing a really good job. I also went through the trouble of making myself a jig panel that helps hold my honeycomb in one place, because in order to use a camera and use a camera consistently, it helps if you keep everything consistent. So I built myself a little jig panel here because I'm working on my table. I don't want to burn anything. And I've got the honeycomb laid up here, and I've already zeroed the camera and calibrated it a day or two ago, and I've been playing around with it. So I'm going to go over and show you that in just a second. All right, guys, I'm over at Lightburn, and I've got the machine turned on, and everything's powered up. And guys, look at the picture on this camera. It's pretty impressive. It's not exactly what I typically use. The picture quality on it surprised me a little bit. I'm going to update the overlay there. And you can see that even when you zoom in, it does a pretty good job. So what we're going to do now, I've already calibrated this camera, but guys, if you're not familiar, there's some tools up here, and you're going to need to calibrate the camera lens and do the calibrate camera alignment. Now, I don't want to reinvent that video. I already have videos showing that process. It is the same with every camera and every machine, unless you try to go with a different camera that already has a profile on there. But I recommend always doing the full calibration. When you open it up, just select standard lens and do the full calibration. There are some presets in here, but I've never had any luck with them, so I recommend just run the calibration anyway. It takes a little time, but your results that you get from the camera will definitely be worth the trouble that it took. So what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to go over and put a piece of material in the work area, and we're going to do some targeting with this camera and see how well it works. All right, so as you can see, I put the material in the workspace, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over there and make me a little mark on the board, and you should be able to see that on the right side of the screen. All right, so I took this Sharpie and I put me a little mark on the board over there, and you can see it right here. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to go in and I'm just going to put a little circle around that Sharpie mark. This is going to be kind of an oblong circle, but I'm basically just testing the targeting ability of this machine and this camera setup. So I'm going to bring that in, and basically I'm just going to outline this little shape. It's a little pixelated around the edges, but guys, that's just literally a dot. And I'm going to send the laser out there. I'm going to let it do a couple of passes just so we can see it. And that way we'll be able to see it in the camera. So here we go. Home the machine first. Machine is home. Let me get back on camera where you can see what's going on here. And so I'm going to send it. And this is a really smooth machine, guys. I don't know if you noticed or not, but on the Z-axis, it actually has a linear rail. Makes it run pretty smooth. And you can see I'm hitting that update overlay button, and I'm not seeing anything, which is a good sign, guys. So that is the accuracy that we're looking at right there. So next, and that's straight off of a home. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to make a little small. And to be fair with this machine, we're going to make this circle a 5mm by 5mm circle, because that was just a pin dot. So let's change that over, and I'm going to move that to the center of the workspace, because guys, I will tell you that the majority of these cameras are going to work better in the center of the workspace than they will everywhere else. So we're going to test it in the center of the work area first. So I'm going to put it about right there in the center of the work area. And I've got this layer just set to run 100 and 100. Take that down to one pass. And we'll get it to run. All right, you can see the machine operating here. It's just going to burn that little dot. Like I said, it's small, but 5 by 5 ought to be pretty fair. But yeah, I went ahead and made myself a interchangeable jig kit to hold the honeycomb, so that if I wanted to grab this thing and use it for any type of like my cutting boards and stuff, I'd be able to do so. And we're probably going to run a cutting board through it on this demo just to kind of show you guys how cameras can make things. I must have this on crosshatch. I've been playing with the diode or the fiber, so that should be more than visible now. All right, so as you can see, it's a little off, not a lot. When I update the overlay, I mean, you've got a couple of millimeters difference in where it's located. And guys, trust me, these things are a tool. They're not exact. No camera I've ever used in Lightburn is going to be exact. We've had that conversation in the live before. Without having multiple cameras, it's kind of hard to get perfect accuracy everywhere in the workspace. The way that this thing is set up, it kind of splits the difference. It gives you reasonable accuracy all over the workspace. So, but where it comes in handy is when you're trying to engrave an object and you need to know how big to make the lines and stuff like that. It just takes a lot of time off of the framing and setup for files. And the picture quality on this camera is pretty impressive. So there's the dot, and I'm just going to hit the update overlay button so you guys can see where it lands. So still a little down and to the right. There's always that option. You can use these adjustments right here in the top right corner of the screen where I'm at. You can actually adjust those if you want to try to get it on. And if it continues to hit low right like that, I may do it. But I just want to confirm that it's not just a workspace issue on where it is in a workspace. If this one is low right, then we may dial it in. It's kind of like setting the scope on your rifle. You never want to start messing with your scope just based off of one shot. You kind of want to shoot a group and see how it works out. So we're going to let this one burn. I'll update it. If this one is low right as well, then we can start playing with the adjustments over here that they give us. All right, so there's the dot, and let's update it. So it is a little low right, so we could shift it. I don't know, on the X, let's see. Let's do about 3. 1. All right. Now we'll update the overlay. So all in all, it's not bad. I think 3 millimeters may actually be too much. But like I said, guys, you can use this camera with, especially if your machine has extrusions like this machine does, it would mount really well. And you can use the clamp too if you had a squared machine. Ooh, I went the wrong way, guys. Let's change that to -3. Oh, -2. 0.5. Nope. -1.5. All right, Y. Okay, so I've shifted it over to where it's pretty close to where the dot is. And I'm going to change this to a line to get a little more accuracy because we're getting a little bit of, you see a little bit of the burn because I'm not running air assist on this, and it's a little slow. So I'm actually overheating this wood. So we'll take and we'll move that somewhere else. Let me run it there. Okay, so you can barely make out the line. I probably need to run that a little more. So we'll move it over right beside that one and see what happens again. All right, I'm gonna update it. So now you can see we're getting a lot more precision out of the camera once I did the after calibration adjustments here. And you can adjust this if needed whenever you change projects or move jobs. So let me move it over here to this area. We'll send it back out. All right, I'm going to update. And see, this side of the work area, now I'm a little high left. But guys, that is literally half a millimeter that way and a full millimeter that way. So if you're doing something really tiny, what you can do is actually do some targeting inside the middle of your work area and just make sure you get that thing right. And then always, of course, always frame. The cameras are a useful tool, but always frame, guys. All right, let's intersect these two. And I think that's about enough of this. All right, update. So if I had something really tiny, now I could sit it where that little circle is and feel very confident that it's going to hit the same spot. And you can do this with test material when you're getting ready to set up a burn if needed. But like I said, frame, and frame some more, guys. So I'm going to move that material out of there, and I just want to show you what a piece of actual workable material looks like in the workspace. I got us a cutting board in there, guys, and reset the focus on the machine. And what we're going to do now is I'm just going to show you how cameras are useful in laying out your design. Now, keep in mind, I know that my honeycomb is square because I have built my interchangeable jig with this little honeycomb retention panel here that holds my honeycomb steel. So everything was cut with a laser. All these are right angles and are square. So I'm just using the boundary of the honeycomb to place this to, that way I know that it's square. Now, the way that I like to set these up, because it makes it easier to frame, is I go in here and I create myself a line in Lightburn, and you're going to want to take that line, make it as large as your item, and try to get it as close as you can. Like I said, cameras are not 100%, but this makes it a lot quicker than if you're just trying to do it without measuring and doing all that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the circle frame or the rubber band frame on this and just see if it's laid out like I want it. All right, and we were successful, guys. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring one of my cutting board designs over, and this is actually going to be one of my cutting boards for a customer. So we're actually doing real clack shack business here, guys. This one, let's see what we got to have here. I need Miles Family on this one. All right, so another thing that you're going to always want to do, of course, is select your interior graphic, hold control, select your exterior, make sure everything's lined up. It should be, but yeah, see, barely moved, but it did move a little bit. All right. Next step here is going to be to take these two guys right here. You can group them if you want to make sure it's good when you're building your jig out. It's nice to do that. All right. So I'm going to group these two so that both of those are together. I'm going to hold control. I'm going to click my little boundary line here, my little frame tool. And then I'm going to just use the alignment tool to align those and make sure that they're vertically centered. All right. I'm not worried about horizontal because this thing has a handle. So I'm just going to select it using the arrow key. I want to move my design down to where I want it on the cutting board. And voila, there we are. That's what our product's going to look like. So I'm going to run it about 120 millimeters a second, 100% power. I'm running the DPI or LPI at 200. And then I want to put it on all groups together and hit OK. All right, so that's going to have my design on there. Let's get the camera back up where you guys can see it. And we're going to send this thing down range. All right, guys, got the cutting board done. And as you can see, it turned out pretty well. This machine actually does a really good job on bamboo. So for you guys that are struggling with bamboo, tip to you, about 200 LPI or DPI gives you these nice results. And this has not been washed or anything, straight off the laser. But anyway, guys, the operating height right now that I've got this camera is a little over 16 3/4 inches. It's right there at that 16 3/4 from the honeycomb to the bottom of the camera. I always try to allow about 20 inches space for the camera. Most cameras within 20 inches, you should be able to get it focused. This machine actually has an extremely large work area, so if your work area is smaller, you can probably pull that thing down and not be quite as high with the mounting of it. But guys, the camera is approved. It's a good working camera. I like it, really good for the machines that have the extrusions like this. So regardless of whether, you know, what brand machine it is, if it has the notches in the extrusion that uses the little T-nuts, this guy will mount to it. But it's a good looking camera. It works well with this machine. I like the mount. It's nice and sturdy. So I'll drop links down below if you're interested in one of those. And I want to say thanks to Sculpfun for sending this guy out for me to test. I am testing it and using it with this machine, but it is versatile and can fit pretty much any machine I got in the shop if I get to needing a test camera for one of my testing machines. But I like the way it looks on this one, so I may just leave it on it for now. But until next time, guys, be safe and have a good day.